Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Ado Campo. I will be the moderator of this session on resilient national M&E systems, what could be achieved through country-led evaluation of the SDGs. This session is being organized by EVAL partners in partnership with UNICEF, WFP, ideas, EVAL SDGs, the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation, EVAL Gender Plus, EVAL Indigenous, and EVAL Youth, and many other partners that the list is long, but important to mention that this is a very interesting effort. It's a group of organizations that are focused on, among other things, on advocating on the importance of country-led evaluations of the SDGs. And this session cannot be more timely now that we are about 7 years down the road since the 2030 agenda was endorsed, and we are facing a global pandemic that is putting at risk, putting countries at risk of not making progress towards the SDGs. So in this frame, we were going to have a very exciting session. We will present the panelists and the topics that they will be sharing with us after a video that EVAL Partners has produced within its Evidence Matter campaign. Thomas, over to you, please. Thanks, Thomas. Indeed, the time is now. The time is now. This is urgent and it's important if we are to really support countries to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. Prior to starting, we'll share with you some ground rules that are important. And Nicola is going to post those ground rules in the chat. So please look at your chat. Basically is, please keep your mics muted throughout the session, unless in the question and answers you need to speak. Of course, participants, panelists will have to unmute when the turn for them to speak is due. So the session will be recording. Keep your microphones on mute all times. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. The question and answers will be facilitated after all our distinguished presenters have shared their experiences with us. Use the hashtags #EvidenceMatter and #country-led-eval for online awareness about this initiative. So help us disseminate. Please visit the country-led evaluation portal on the Eval Partners Evidence Matter microsite. The link is in the chat. And watch and share the intro video here, so you have the link to the video as well. The other important thing is that we will be sharing with you the recording and all the documents related to this initiative after a few days of this event. So don't worry about that. We will make some other announcements as we go. So again, welcome to this session on resilient national M&E systems. What could be achieved to country-led evaluations of the SDGs. Our presenters today will be Dr. Bala Yusuf. He will start first, so let me introduce him first. And if you don't mind, colleagues, I would like to introduce each presenter as they speak, not them all together, otherwise it's going to be too long. Dr. Bala Yusuf will be our first speaker. Can you please put Bala's CV there? Thank you. He's a senior technical advisor to the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on the Sustainable Development Goals. In this capacity, he provides a strategic policy guidance on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda in Nigeria. Bala is committed to country-led evaluations of the SDG. He will tell us what his country is doing in terms of country-led evaluations of the SDG. Nigeria has been the pioneer in the Global South, and he is also always eager and willing to share Nigeria's experience and to contribute to this movement towards advocating, raising awareness on country-led evaluations of the SDGs. Bala, thank you very, very much for being with us today. And the floor is yours. You have 12 minutes, please. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ada, for your kind and generous words. And distinguished participants, let me just start by underscoring the fact that as part of Nigeria's commitment to the overall implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs, Nigeria is committed to institutionalizing the overall implementation of the SDGs, including its monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. Therefore, 3 years following the implementation in Nigeria, precisely in January 2019, the Nigerian government committed itself to demonstrating results and evidence-based reporting by embarking on an independent evaluation of its priority SDGs. And to do that, we had to go through a whole process of setting up an institutional framework. For example, we had to first of all establish the technical working group on independent evaluation of SDGs in Nigeria, involving all the key stakeholders from the ministries, department, and agencies, as well as the organized civil society, the organized private sector, as well as the professional bodies of national evaluators in Nigeria. So we embarked on that prioritization and eventual independent evaluation of 3 priority SDGs, now SDG 1, SDG 3, and SDG 4. All these have happened in Nigeria with the technical and financial support of UNICEF Nigeria, and of course, UNICEF headquarters. What we aim to achieve with this approach is to ensure that our voluntary national reviews are conducted in an evidence-based manner, in an inclusive and participatory manner, and then we are able to, as way of reporting our stewardship to the United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, we will be able to use key findings from these evaluations to inform our voluntary national review. But beyond the voluntary national reviews that we aim to be evidence-based, all-inclusive, and participatory, we also look at it as an opportunity to do policy advocacy to fast track the implementation and the achievement of the SDGs in the decade of action for the global goals. Now, we are also at a critical juncture whereby we are conducting this independent evaluation, and then we have COVID-19 challenging us. And therefore, going forward, country-led evaluation of SDGs will help to show the impact of pandemic like the COVID-19 and others that are yet to be known. And all this are part of the broader objectives and ideas around why we must conduct country-led, independent, to be precise, evaluation of our priority SDGs. And from our experience, once we commence the process of doing this country-led evaluation of this priority SDGs, we have seen a lot of opportunities in terms of building the capacity of the government officials to be able to do imbibe, first of all, the culture of evaluation within the public sector, as well as build the capacity to be able to do and conduct evaluation. The whole process had a capacity building component where all the key officials that are involved in monitoring evaluation across the federal ministries, departments, and agencies were brought in together to begin to understand the concept of evaluation and why even country-led evaluation, and then down to the evaluation of priority SDGs. We've been quite inclusive to have robust methodology, because we have to learn by doing, because no one has prior to this experience has evaluated the SDGs that we've seen. The learnings we've taken from countries like Finland in terms of evaluating the entire sustainable development policy has also been able to strengthen our methodology and understanding of how best to evaluate SDGs and the kind of advocacy. So with the entire national monitoring and evaluation system in Nigeria is now benefiting from this country-led independent evaluation of our 3 priority SDGs. On SDG 1, we haven't commenced that, but SDG 3 and 4, we are almost at the last end of the exercise, and hopefully by preliminary reports are out, but by the end of June, July, early July, end of June, early July, we should be able to have the final key findings of this SDG 3 on qualitative health and well-being for all, and as well as SDG 4 on qualitative and inclusive education. And the approach is to see the sort of mainstreaming and integration of the SDGs into the sectoral policies and plans of these relevant ministries in Nigeria. So, for example, in evaluating SDG 3, we are evaluating a national health strategic plan that mainstream and integrates the SDG 3 and its targets. And therefore, we're doing that across the country with the national and the subnational component of the evaluation. Same with SDG 4. We are evaluating a national policy on education that in a timely manner and in the framework that enables us to measure impact, integrate the relevant targets on SDG 4. So from our experience in Nigeria, while evaluation might be seen to be a technocratic endeavor. We've come to recognize and realize that it is more of a political undertaking, because there has to be first the political commitment, or if you like, the will to conduct an evaluation. And this, but for us, this is a clear demonstration of Nigeria's commitment to the 2030 agenda to say, yes, we have only implemented the SDGs for 3 years, but still, let us begin to evaluate ourselves. What is working, what is not working, and what should be done to strengthen policy, and then do advocacy around the key findings from this evaluation. And this by no means has come to reinforce the national monitoring and evaluation framework. And also because since we commenced the implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria, we know you cannot do evaluation without timely and credible data. So we have since commenced after conducting the SDG baseline indicator survey in 2016. By 2017, we commenced the process of realigning our entire national statistical system with the requirements and indicators of the SDGs. What that means is that we now have a data dictionary with the National Bureau of Statistics that defines all the 230 key performance indicators within the Nigerian context, and which ministry, department, and agency will report on which indicator and the frequency. It might interest distinguished participants to note that that exercise throughout interesting finding that 70% of the 230 key performance indicators will come from the administrative sources of data of the ministries, department, and agencies, while only about 25% will come from the periodic surveys of the National Bureau of Statistics, like the Living Standard Survey that happens every 5 years, the multi-cluster indicator survey, the demographic health surveys. All those ones that are very expensive and take time actually compose about 25% of the 230 key performance indicators, and about 5% will be derived and computed. So with that leverage on the complete realignment, we are happy to say that we are successfully reinforcing the national monitoring and evaluation system from the perspective of the commitment to the overall implementation of the 2030 agenda and the SDGs in Nigeria. So the implementation, if you like, of the SDGs in Nigeria is now reinforcing the monitoring and evaluation culture across the public sector in Nigeria. I wouldn't want to exceed my time. I would like to stop here, but I'm sure questions will come.
You still have minutes left, Bala, if you want to make use of them.
Sorry?
You still have a few minutes left. You have about 4 minutes if you want to make use of them.
Okay, so let me just emphasize on specifically the value of the independent evaluation and how it reinforces our 2020 voluntary national review, which was Nigeria's second voluntary national review, having presented the first in July 2017, just a year after the commencement of the implementation of the SDGs. And that approach, that VNR was driven by the desire to do evidence-based reporting, having started the independent evaluation of the 3 priority SDGs. Unfortunately, COVID-19 came, and the progress or the data collection, the primary data collection was halted because of restrictions. But despite that, because of the overall commitment to do evidence-based reporting, we used evidence around all the 7 priority reporting SDGs for the voluntary national review. And we reported on SDG 1, SDG 3, SDG 4, SDG 5, SDG 8, 16, and 17. And we had to use different evaluation syntheses. I think we used approximately 46 evaluation findings to strengthen the evidence in the 2020 voluntary national review. So, and obviously the whole of government and the whole of society approach that we use in the development of or in the conduct of the voluntary national review enable Nigeria to present an inclusive, participatory, and evidence-based voluntary national review last year. And now with that experience, it can only get better once we have the key findings of the independent evaluation. And in our strategic roadmap, we will be conducting every 4 years independent evaluation of priority SDGs. And that key findings will continue to shape and reshape policies around the implementation of the SDGs into the decade of action. Nigeria is also committed to conducting voluntary national reviews every 2 years. So we are presented in 2020. Hopefully, we will have the opportunity to present in 2022. And every other year that we will not present a VNR, we will do a progress report leveraging on the realigned national statistical system and the findings around the previous evaluations that will fit in neatly into our reports. So it is our commitment that all reports on SDGs in Nigeria will be evidence-based, and the only thing that will reinforce that is evaluation and the findings and the key findings of this evaluation being used for policy advocacy around the global goals. I would like to stop here, and I look forward to questions or comments for clarification. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bala. This has been an excellent presentation, a clear example of countries, a country at the driver's seat, a clear example of ownership and also commitment and willingness to involve different actors of society in this initiative. Thank you very, very much. Colleagues, I have the pleasure, I'm delighted to introduce Honorable Kabir Hashim. Kabir Hashim is an economist and a politician who has been a member and a founder of the, has been a member of the parliament in Sri Lanka for 25 years. He has served in many committees in the parliament. He spearheaded the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation and became its founding chair, a position he holds currently. He was instrumental in bringing parliamentarians to evaluation fora and bridging the divide that existed between professional evaluation communities and politicians. Today, as a result, the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation is represented in many parliaments globally, and it is growing. Kabir Hashim has also been a senior cabinet minister in the last government in Sri Lanka. He is currently in parliament and represents the main opposition. Dear Kabir, it's always a pleasure and an honor to have with you, you with us. So I give you the floor to share your experience, that it will be challenging for you to share it in 12 minutes because it's a wealth of experience, but life is like that. So Kabir, thank you so much. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Ada, for the great introduction. Hi, everyone, my fellow panelists, and all the folk who are together with us today, working to keep things together, to make the world a better place, to the following the SDGs, making sure no one is left behind. I'm really thankful for giving me this time on behalf of the Parliamentarians Forum for evaluation. It's really encouraging to follow Dr. Yusuf Yunusa, who's made such a great presentation. One of the key challenges that we have seen and also has translated into a key victory was moving from donor-driven evaluation to country-led evaluations. Country-led evaluations have makes countries concerned to actually lead and own evaluation processes by determining what policy or program will be evaluated, what evaluation questions will be asked, what methods will be used, etc. And finally, leading to serving the information needs of that country. However, there was yet another challenge which we have still to overcome. Whilst WOPEs, professional evaluation organizations, governments being represented by the executive mostly and the public sector were involved in the process of evaluation, the key decision makers and the end users of evaluation reports, mainly the political leaders, were never involved in the process. This is one of the biggest shortcomings that we saw. So at the launch of the SDGs by the United Nations, it was said, in order to succeed, the SDGs should not be the exclusive domain of the executive branch or a ministry-driven exercise. It is important to mobilize parliaments around the SDGs. Parliaments play an essential role in establishing the conditions for SDG plans, policies, and programs to succeed by virtue of their legislative budgeting and their oversight functions. We know that most of the demand and use of evidence from evaluation must come from the largest group of end users, that is government or parliament. Up to around 2012, there was a big gap between the evaluation community and parliamentarians. It was believed that parliament or parliamentarians or politicians were not interested in evaluation or evidence-based policy making. That was the perception or a myth. Up to 2013, evaluation conferences, international evaluation events were held without the participation of any politicians or parliamentarians. But this was what we wanted to change. The Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation was initiated by a few parliamentarians to disprove this myth that parliamentarians or politicians do not care about evidence-based policy making. The Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation has changed that perception, and today parliamentarians are actively engaged in evaluation conferences, trainings, lobbying, and evidence-based policy making. In fact, I'm quite happy to see today the video campaign taken by the African Parliamentary Group. And that's something I'm asking all the Global Parliamentary Forum members to support, and that we will continue to support that move, the video campaign, to get it along the way. Globally, countries are building more effective monitoring and evaluation systems to cope with huge amounts of information that is being generated. Concepts such as management for development results, performance-based budgeting, etc., which are commonly used tools to cope with such information, is today, it's being used very, very, very commonly. But today, in a world full of misinformation, fake news, politically biased and emotionally charged data, filtering the right information is a challenge. Therefore, evidence-based policy making for monitoring and evaluation is becoming very important, but it is also not so easy to manage that amount of data. So one must remember that policy making is not the same as technical decision making. In policy making, we deal with much more complex variables and with competing human needs. As politicians, we have a greater challenge than anyone else. And there has to be a trade-off needed between multiple competing social needs. And this is what the politician has to grapple with. Therefore, In the pursuit of good governance and accountability, we parliamentarians as policymakers need to make unbiased decisions based not only on evidence, but also by making the most politically relevant decisions. Therefore, the dialogue between the suppliers and the users of evidence should be strengthened to bridge the gap between the information needs of the policymakers and the information offered by researchers and evaluators. The Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation was started to play the role whereby our parliaments must be well equipped technically to evaluate policy issues, public projects, and public performances and services. At the same time, parliamentarians themselves must have access to new techniques and methods that are helpful in the performance of their duties. Unless we became familiar with the tools of evidence-based policymaking, and if we didn't have trained, qualified staff in Parliament, who could give us summarized evaluation reports or that we would not otherwise be able to deliver to the public voter? So, Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation took this responsibility to ensure that we could get parliamentarians involved and skilled and to be able to be engaged. The difference the Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation has made, to name a few, would be because of the time constraint. In 2015, evaluation was included in the Nepali constitution, and a national evaluation policy has been drafted to be included in Nepal. Tunisia included evaluation in parliament, in their parliament bylaws. Ivory Coast included evaluation in their constitution in 2016. Kyrgyzstan brought the monetary and evaluation law, which was approved by parliament in 2014. Kenya has now a national evaluation policy set up after 2017. Zimbabwe has a national evaluation policy which was started off in 2018. Afghanistan has a draft national evaluation policy. Bhutan has a draft national evaluation policy. Sri Lanka has a national evaluation policy which was presented to the Cabinet of Ministers and approved in 2018. Sri Lanka also has in Parliament, with support from the USAID, a group that is strengthening the research unit in Parliament by training staff in evaluation techniques. So Parliament is actually getting geared in Sri Lanka with trained staff. Many countries are engaging their parliaments and creating institutional mechanisms to follow up on the 2030 agenda of the Sustainable Development Goals. To name a few, without detail due to the limited time, Argentina, Belgium, Denmark, Thailand, Guatemala, Nigeria, Kenya, Nepal, Sri Lanka, they are all countries which are getting engaged right now with the parliament to handle the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. The Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation has played a large role in promoting this engagement of parliamentarians in evaluation. In 2018, the Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation hosted the first ever global conference, Eval Colombo 2018, where parliamentarians from over 70 countries came together in Sri Lanka, and members from the evaluation community, civil society, and international agencies all came together. At this conference, we did a self-evaluation. The weak institutionalization of evaluation capacity in Parliament has been a major drawback, and almost all parliaments did not have resource persons with skills in evaluation, limiting the interpretation of evaluation reports for use for parliamentarians. We discussed the lack of adequate legislation needed to strengthen evaluation through national evaluation policies and insufficient budget allocation. So in most countries, the Sustainable Development Goals implementation was not coordinated through Parliament and was suffering setbacks. Therefore, we made a resolution in 2018 to change this situation. Parliamentarians who were at Eval Colombo in 2018 with the community got together and came up with what we call the Colombo Declaration. The Colombo Declaration document is a landmark document. It was brought about through a representation of a global partnership of parliamentarians, governments, international development institutions, United Nations agencies, non-governmental agencies, and evaluation professionals from 67 nations, where we discuss the role for parliamentarians in underpinning and positioning the use of evaluation evidence in support of development to bring an end to poverty, hunger, and inequality. The Colombo Declaration document deals with evidence-based policy making, national evaluation policy, enabling environment, budgets for evaluation, developing technical capacity within parliaments, training, and how parliaments should have processes to facilitate and support the successful implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. In a sense, it is something of what we call our Magna Carta. It has what we need. The Colombo Declaration is a very important document. So what I think is that we've put this together to ensure that parliaments around the world will get engaged in working through their parliaments, getting policymakers involved in the SDGs, making sure they push their governments to give them adequate budgeting, to ensure there is strong legislation where every country establishes a national evaluation policy so that it becomes institutionalized. Evaluation becomes institutionalized and legalized and strengthened. That is the role that we've been playing, and it has taken a hard struggle, but we've been working hard. And in a sense, I would like to say at this point that as Lily Tomlin, a famous movie star, a comedian, a singer from the USA said, the road to success is always under construction. So it's a long journey. We've still got a long way to go. And therefore, we are ready to take on the battle. And I would like to tell you at this time, at a position where the whole world is going through such a hard time, I would end with a quote saying, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Thank you.
Excellent, Kabir. Thank you very, very much. Incredible contribution that parliamentarians are making to evaluation and to evaluation initiatives. But not only that, your speech and your examples is demonstrating that this is not up to us. It's simply that if we don't engage other actors, if we don't engage parliamentarians, our results can be there, but they are not going to be as significant and as relevant if we engage with parliamentarians and other actors. The other message I read in between the lines is that we should really think that evaluators should go beyond this regular practice of having evaluators speaking to evaluators, of having meetings from evaluators directed to evaluators only. There is a value on having a dialogue with a diverse stakeholders, a wide range of stakeholders, and that is going to lead to the results that Kabir has mentioned in terms of the enabling environment for evaluation at the national level, at the regional level, and many other results that he has shared with us. Thank you very, very much, Kabir. I really appreciate. Before we go to the next presenter, I would like to ask you to please put on your videos for a group photo. Can that be possible? Can you all please put on your videos? Want to see your faces, and it will just be 1 minute or less to take a group photo. Okay, great, very nice and friendly faces I'm seeing after a long time. Okay, Acela, please. Hi, Jennifer. Well, can we, Thomas, can you
Yes.
start with the photo?
I see more and more people activating the camera.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then, Robert, perfect. I'll take a couple of pictures. Everybody smile. Thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So this is becoming more and more exciting, and we want to take the best advantage of the time we have. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to my colleague and friend, Kasem El Sadiq. Kasem is an international expert in program evaluation who strongly believes that evaluation matters for development. And he has more than 18 years of experience and in different countries and regions of the world, including fragile and conflict affected environments. He has a track record on evaluation capacities, he's also credited for his deep engagement in civil society. He is currently an EVAL SDGs co-chair and a founder of the MENA Evaluation Network. So he has contributed to various papers that you can see in the website of EVAL SDGs, evalsdgs.org. So please visit that website that has a wide range of resources as well as EVAL Partners website. So without further ado, Kasem, it is my pleasure to introduce you to this excellent audience, and over to you. You have 12 minutes.
Thank you so much, Heather. Let me immediately make use of the time. I'd like to start by saying basically, I was very much delighted to be part of this panel, having the chance to listen to what the government representative has brought into the agenda and the picture, what the parliamentarian has brought to the picture, and allow myself to probably pitch in and provide the participants with an overview from a practitioner side point of view, as well as the FOPE contribution to building the capacities of the national evaluation capacities and contributing to evaluation of the SDGs. I intentionally tried to make it more structural, and this is precisely to highlight some of the key issues and the key points that were drawn from the experience of engaging wherein EVAL partners had at one point in time, EVAL SDGs had most often with various colleagues all over the place. As part of the a flagship program funded by SDC, managed by EVAL partners, we were able to reach out to around like 28, 26 or 30 of our VOPEs and other stakeholders at national level to try to push and support their endeavors and their efforts towards national-led evaluation and engaging in multi-stakeholders platforms around national capacities of evaluation, etc. And the lessons learned I'd like to share here, along with a bit of highlights from a couple of countries, are essentially, I see them very much related to what to the efforts of anyone who's engaging in those in any process of country-led evaluation towards the SDGs at the national level. The key point I'd like to make is that supporting or influencing national evaluation capacity and policy is a long and dynamic process. It's iterative by nature. It requires innovative approaches by all means. So we can't go with the business as usual approach. We can't go only with the conventional approach. We should devise new methods and approaches to reach out to the partners, stakeholders, and to devise approaches of evaluating and rather than only capturing the data and monitoring. In policy science terms, it requires the right influencer in the right moment, engaging with the right counterparts or interlocutor in a conducive environment on clear terms. And every single word in the statement has a meaning, and I leave it to the participants to reflect on. Right influencer, by which we mean to a large extent champion of evaluation, being it from the civil society part or sector, or being it from the government sector and or parliamentarian, etc. And I'm proud to be among a few of those champions who have been raising the flags of evaluation at the national levels as well as the regional levels with Honorable Kabir. And the second point is that we need to engage in the right moment. Unfortunately, over the last year or so, it wasn't the right moment, I believe, because of what we've witnessed so far from the COVID pandemic and how it affected every single aspect of our life. Nevertheless, many countries and many partners and actors in those countries have done their best. And the example of Nigeria is one among others. Engaging with the right counterpart at the different sector of the national partner spectrum, and in a conducive environment on clear terms. And the clear terms precisely speaks to the terms of evaluation of the SDGs. Which SDGs, whether a group of them, one of them, what aspects, whether they speak to the national policy or national strategy or plans. All of these basically are the clear terms. And I'm happy to probably pinpoint the fact that we just closed a couple of days ago a global workshop on discussing how we can action some of those country-led evaluations, and we had the chance to engage with various and different commissioners of evaluation from the government side, through the collaboration between Eval SDGs and other partners, UNICEF, IAD, and others. The key lessons learned that I'd like to hide, in addition to this broad what I believe is broad kind of direction, is that we need to be realistic in setting the expected results. We've got engagement through the VOPEs and other stakeholders in various parts of the world, and we kind of the different actors were enthusiastic to the extent that they probably lose a bit of the sense of the ground. So we need to be more realistic depending on the readiness at the national level. And we all know that not all national or national partners are at the same level of readiness. I think the second point is that we, as practitioners, VOPEs, and government stakeholders, parliamentarians, and others, we need to align the evaluation agenda with those stakeholders. Every single sector has its own agenda, its own evaluation, probably priorities. What we need to work around is probably to align those expectations and set one agenda. The government is an elephant, and this is not a surprise. In some aspects and in various parts of the world, it moves slowly but solidly. So we need to align those paths and those processes. And the VNR process it turns out to be both a political and development process at one point at the same time. Its byproduct is being used politically. Nevertheless, we need to use the process in pushing for the development agenda at the national level, let alone the government image and face in the international arenas. Multi-stakeholder approaches are essential, and they make the evaluation process more sustainable and more resilient, especially in such times of lack of certainty and lack of clarity in which we're living. The flagship program through Eval Partners basically provided the impetus and the opportunity for many of the VOPEs and other stakeholders to capitalize on. And we've got a couple of interesting successes, and we've got other networks who are capitalizing on that and complementing those efforts. More specifically, from the side of the VOPEs and the practitioners, I think yes, VOPEs have strong technical arms. Nevertheless, their capacity and access to policy arenas is a bit questionable. VOPEs have some resources. They do have the capacity, but they have limited resources, and it's a question of balancing how they would consume potential funds in through the VOPEs given their limited capacities. The need to leverage on and nurture relationship with partners and interlocutors is critical. I don't want to emphasize it more. I've dwelt on that so far. And we need to explore and create the synergies among those potential actors, being them development agencies, local CSOs, international NGOs, and national NGOs, let alone with the parliamentarians and the government. The regional VOPE throughout our engagement in the flagship program turns out to be a bit timid in terms of the role. So the role should be stronger and much more influential. Risk assessment and mitigation is key. The question is, what if something happens? And unfortunately, we fell short in answering this question because we haven't thought of it earlier 3 years ago. But I strongly believe that, starting from a couple of months ago, I would presume, many of us are starting to raise this question and start to think out of the box and devise innovative tools, approaches, and means and processes. So these are the key lessons learned drawn from, as you see in this map, the map of the world, basically almost like 24 intervention, 24 projects implemented in various parts of the world, from Latin America through Africa, South Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and Asia and South Asia. And those literally were drawn from those experiences, and we're happy to dwell on them later on. But again, for the benefit of the learning from those experiences, I want to shed the light on a couple of intervention and what the stakeholders and partners have achieved towards building the national capacities, toward pushing the evaluation agenda forward, and toward engaging in national-led evaluation. Nepal example is one of among many. Despite the challenges in delays due to bureaucracy, and by all means, we have to bear in mind and always account for the potential delays due to the bureaucratic processes at the government level, sometimes the change in government, etc., that we're going to see in many of those examples. And the change in policy and directions, let alone potential restrictions on CSOs, the example of Nepal, other example in Jordan, that hinders a bit the impact, the potential impact, or the outcomes expected from those interventions. Nevertheless, our Nepalese colleagues have succeeded in pushing the monitoring and evaluation bill that was drafted, in integrating the evaluation into chapters in the Nepalese 5-year plan, building capacities, developing code of conduct and endorsed by the government, and engaging into various capacity assessment of government entities throughout the last year and a half. Senegal is a typical example that, again, despite the hindrance and the challenges with the elections and changing government that we have to live with, and we have to acknowledge and live with, they nevertheless succeeded in conducting a national mapping and assessment of national evaluation capacity, and in engaging with the parliamentarians often in creating a platform of multi-stakeholders. And this platform is nurtured and supported by the VOPE Senegal, and organizing series of seminars towards developing the VNR review that was submitted last year. A third example would be Zimbabwe. Again and again, delays and challenges. And probably I would allow myself here to put a caveat. Though the emphasis is not only on the delays in bureaucracy and the change in government. I've already emphasized the fact that some of the developers have internal capacity issues in consuming the projects and the funds, despite the fact that they have unlimited enthusiasm, but the readiness is quite turns out to be quite questionable. Nevertheless, Zaya has achieved a lot. Has joined the CSO reference group. Has established relationship with the UNICEF Region Office and embarked into a new project with it, and have developed an equity-focused and gender-responsive toolkit that has been mainstreamed and integrated in various projects. Kyrgyzstan, a fourth example, probably, or fifth example, I forgot the count. Nevertheless, again, the plan was, yep.
2 minutes, please.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, I just want to go through rapidly. These are a series of a list of projects implemented in various parts of the world. And luckily, we didn't have the chance to emphasize Latin America. Mexico turns out to be on the edge always in producing and delivering, and we were supposed to meet for the Global Evaluation Forum. Unfortunately, it got delayed because of COVID. Nevertheless, ASEVAL has contributed a lot to building subnational monitoring and evaluation capacities, and the list is endless. All this to say, all this basically to say that it's essential to complement the efforts between the different interlocutors from the different sectors, government sector, parliamentarians, DevOps, and other CSOs. Bringing in the public sector, the private sector into the picture is essential, and all of these would lay down for the ground for an enabling environment that would push the evaluation agenda forward and would call the government to embark into evaluation of the SDGs and the national policies. I'll stop here, and I mean, we're ready to get into our further discussions in due course. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks very much, Kassem. Sorry, I had to cut you because we need to leave a space for questions and answers, and we already have some questions. And yes, it is. Thank you very much. This is indeed a very, very interesting initiative. I don't know whether it's possible to put a link in the chat where participants can find more information on this flagship program from EVAL partners, which, as Kassem has mentioned, each country has received the support is dealing with a number of partners, and the results are very, very interesting. Thanks very much again, Kassem. Without further ado, I would like to introduce now to Deborah Rook. Do we have her CV? Thanks. Okay, Dr. Deborah Rook is an award-winning evaluation pioneer working over 100 countries during her 40-year career. She's a lifelong advocate for global health, the undeserved, and promoting evaluation evidence to improve national policies and systems. She believes evaluation is every citizen's right. This is amazing. Evaluation as a right of the citizens. She is a former chair of UNEC, the United Nations Evaluation Group, and during her time of chair of UNEC, she spearheaded the landmark UN Resolution 69237 on strengthening national evaluation capacities and national evaluation capacities. As SDGs advisors to the US mission to the UN in New York, she successfully promoted inclusion of the country-led evaluation principle in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And as the director for Claremont University Evaluation Center in New York, she led the executive leadership program in SDG evaluation. So she has many other roles that she has played during her very successful career. I invite you to read her CV in the screen. And because we are short of time, without further ado, allow me to give the floor to Deborah. She will be speaking about looking ahead, and she will also summarize key messages from our speakers. Deborah, thank you so much for continue being with us. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Ada. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And hello, everyone. It is my great pleasure to be on this panel and speaking with you today about this important and pivotal topic of country-led evaluation, being at the center of the game in countries to act on and accelerate the SDG attainment. It's a very good organizing principle for this panel and for all the groups that are represented on this panel and in our audience today. So it's really exciting to be a part of this panel and have a chance to give a few comments. I just wanted to start out by describing a little bit of what I've been doing with a group of people over the past almost a year now. We've been coming together talking about the role of country-led evaluation and how to empower it and articulate its benefits for countries around the world, especially governments, to embrace it and take it to heart and start acting on it in ways that really serve them well, achieving the benefit of evaluation, the benefit of country-led evaluation, which we all believe in, to know it be really a tool. This group of people is involved a variety of actors so far, and we're welcoming in more and more all the time. Eval Partners was a key to get started with. UN agencies like the World Food Program and UNICEF have been involved, the SDG Eval Network and many other of the SDG networks, member states such as Nigeria, a very eloquent talk today by Bala from Nigeria, very much a key driver in this discussion of leading better country-led evaluation for all countries. What do we do in other countries? Too long to list right now. And we've decided to create a task force of people really committed to see action on utilization and planning for country-led evaluation under the rubric of the SDGs, under the rubric of the voluntary national reviews, to see the role of country-led evaluation to really take hold and be useful for countries everywhere, all around the world. So this task force has been talking and visioning, what would the future look like? If we got what we were asking for, what would it look like? If our dreams came true and things were taking hold, starting with the end in mind, what are we visioning? What would the world look like? And then maybe scaling that down to, okay, well, just next year, what would it look like? And what would it look like in countries adopting the notion that they should be doing and want to be doing country-led evaluation? So we thought there were 4 or 5 key elements that we would start to see that would be really beneficial. The first being, we believed that by promoting this, like in this panel, like in other forums, that we would start to see national governments actually seeking and requesting country-led evaluations to be done of key actors within the government and within their pool of experts they use and rely on, that there would be more country-led, with countries truly in the driver's seat, owning, planning, designing, using the evaluations. We'd start to see a real uptick in that around the world. Already we heard from our panelists, a lot's going on. So we're not starting from scratch. We have a solid foundation. And as Kasim said, things take, there's slow moving like a dinosaur, some places like a glacier, but it is moving. And then sometimes things just catapult. And we would like to catalyze and catapult that number of countries engaging in country-led evaluation to really start dramatically increasing over, even starting in the next year, to start getting as many countries as we can. We didn't put a finger on it, but we want to see a dramatic, if you're marking a trend line. We want to see a dramatic uptick in 2022 of countries engaging and requesting country-led evaluations, and importantly, for coherence, that those country-led evaluations are integrated into the voluntary national review process, because all countries are doing SDG planning, have plans of some sort. Many countries have done VNRs, will be doing VNRs, and so that's an incredible existing platform for the country-led evaluations to really become a part of and to find their voice in that platform. So we would see more evaluations called for by countries that service answering questions of SDG progress, and those would be included and reported in the VNRs. Then we would see that the country-led evaluations are actually evidence of helping to accelerate progress on the SDGs, on the goals themselves, that the activity of the evaluation, their findings and their recommendations could be observed as actually causing policy change, program change, like we're seeing in Nigeria and elsewhere. That's exciting. That evaluation, we know, isn't done for the sake of evaluation or just to see it in a report. It's done to see things change that affect people's lives. And we would start to see that. So that would be the second part of our vision. The third part of our vision is that the country-led evaluation would start to be known by many people in the government as a source of a good source of national information about how we're doing in terms of SDGs, but in general, as we heard from Bala in Nigeria, doing country-led evaluations under the SDG had a ripple effect. It improved and it made awareness and strengthened the National M&E system in general across a variety of ministries. So there's this beneficial ripple effect happening. And that's a third part of what we would like to see, that country-led evaluations for SDG attainment has a cultural effect on and fostering evaluative thinking, looking to evidence to help answer questions, and raising the bar in a country about the availability and use of data and the understanding of data. And also, as we heard from Kabir, that politicians, parliamentarians need skills to use data too. So that part of increasing country-led evaluation would also be to train and orient and help coach our policymakers, our political leaders and parliamentarians, how to better use this evidence as they legislate. And that would be a key part of the vision for the future too. And then, let's see if that was the fourth, the fifth would be using the lessons learned by each country from the country-led evaluations and sharing it. Sharing the successes and failures, not to be afraid to report on things that aren't working at the high-level political forum each year in New York, when all member states are reporting on what they're doing, to take the stigma out of evaluation and demystify it and the fear of it, rather to see it as the pathway to learning. Then we're sharing those lessons, member states sharing those lessons among each other, with each other at the high-level political forum each year, and then summing that up and creating global lessons learned coming from the people, from the governments, for the people. And we think country-led evaluations could stimulate that dramatic increase in effective learning, lessons learning across countries. And the forum could be at the political, high-level political forum, and of course elsewhere. I'm just giving kind of a global UN level perspective at the moment, because what we also concluded is that to really get a boost in international recognition and a global push for such country-led evaluations in support of the SDGs being a global platform, a new UN resolution would probably be very helpful. And this idea has been percolating for a while by a number of countries. There was an initial meeting in December with over 60 countries talking about this idea of, should there be another resolution? You all know we had the initial landmark resolution in 2014 to build national capacities. Now we're building them. Now the time has come. We've built it and they have come. We now need to really inspire all countries to be doing it, using it, and reporting on it so that all may share So this discussion of a new UN resolution is now front and center on our discussion table, and we're hoping gets more traction as we start articulating this more, and as our member state colleagues and national governments start to see the real value of this kind of push. So looking to the future, we're hoping that there would be a collective groundswell among our national governments, among our member states in the UN, to see really the importance of putting a new resolution on country-led evaluation as part of the voluntary review process at the center of new initiatives in global SDG acceleration. So I think those are the highlights of what we're seeing in this discussion group at the moment about the future. I think there's too many comments made by the panelists to summarize. Ada has nicely summarized a lot of the key things, but for me, the takeaway, I really liked a few things I think we should definitely take away. Like, especially from Bala, the process of the participatory process of evaluation at the national level, where all levels of government across all relevant sectors were involved. This participation, so it wasn't just done by one sector or the Office of the President or just an outsourced partner, it was owned. It's clearly a demonstration of country ownership of a process. And what that means is you embrace all ministries involved. And of course, many there won't know evaluation or do it, but they get oriented to it and then they start to own it. And then that has led to utilization in ways not used before. And then the beneficial ripple effect of that. I found that extremely important. And that Bala's clear point that evaluation is not just a technical activity, it's a political activity as well. And all of us, I think, need to recognize that there's a political role in evaluation now more than ever. We're dealing, as Kabir said, we're dealing with a world of misinformation, and evaluators need to be in the game from the start, throughout, and at the finish to help continue to give the voice of evidence. The facts matter, evidence matters, and informing that political discussion. But being aware we're in a political world and we then need to advocate. And evaluation now includes an advocacy role for at least some in our groups, so that we can strengthen the platform that provides factual information and useful information to the world we need and to our decision makers. And especially now, we believe the future needs country-led evaluations in real time to help decision makers cope with the crisis that they face all the time, the reality they're dealing with, like COVID. And we believe country-led evaluation can lead the way, and has demonstrated already in some countries the contribution we can help to decision-making, policy-making in the face of crises, so that we're more resilient going forward. So I think that I had several, but I don't want to take much more time here. I just like also Kasim's conclusion about we need innovation to do all of this, and Eval SDGs is doing it, but we need innovation. So bring us your innovative thoughts. No ideas are not good enough or too simple. This right now, more than ever, needs a world of innovative incubation of how do we get this done. And I think that this group on the panel and online right now are the people who can do it. So I'm very excited to be a part of this process. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Deborah. Excellent summary and messages for moving ahead. And we have some minutes for questions and answers. So please feel free to write your questions or your comments in the chat. So far, we have 2 questions from Carlos Javier from UNICEF Pakistan. He is asking, the first question is, what can we learn from submitted VNRs regarding the use of evaluation by countries? Although Bala has referred to that if one of the speakers would like to complement. And the second question is, to what extent is possible to propose a set of criteria for defining what to evaluate related to the SDGs? The second question, I would say, is for Kasem, and there is a reference in the guidebook on how to use the principles of the agenda as criteria. So let's start first with the VNR questions. What can we learn from submitted VNRs regarding the use of evaluation by the countries? Who would like to add to what Vala has already mentioned? From the speakers, perhaps Kabir?
Hello, yes, this is Kabir. Yeah, there is not much I can say about the VNR, the question, but except that at present, one of the things that we see is that there's a lack of coordination in governments itself to ensure that there is more participation, unlike what Bala told us in Nigeria, where we see that there is participation at different levels. The learning process through the VNRs is very critical, but in most countries, the information is not disseminated and not shared enough amongst the different stakeholders.
Thanks so much, Kabir. Bala, you have mentioned how the VNRs submitted were used for evaluation by countries, but perhaps you can remind and summarize very briefly on this aspect. Over to you, Bala. Thank you. I think we are missing Bala now.
Bala, you have to unmute.
Probably there are connection problems with Bala. In the meantime, can we ask Kasem to deal with the second questions? To what extent is it possible to propose a set of criteria for defining what to evaluate related to the SDGs? I think also Nigeria has mentioned that about the criteria. Over to you, Kasem.
Thank you, Ada. A couple of things. One is we all know that there is this guideline to develop the VNR, which is more of a guideline that is not that is open and not prescriptive, and allows it is loose, but it allows for every single country to pick and choose whatever it wants to present, depending on the national priorities and what they want to reflect in terms of their SDGs. Having said that, I'd like to highlight the fact that as part of the collaboration between a partnership between SDGs, UNICEF, IAD, DEVAL, and the Ministry for Foreign Affairs in Finland, we've developed a guidebook, and we're workshopping this guidebook and taking it to the second and third level. And in this guidebook, we've advocated, and we're still, to approach the SDGs not only from the DAC criteria, but rather from the principles and the principles embedded in the Agenda 2050. The principles of leaving no one behind, the principles of participation and inclusiveness, the principles of sustainability, the principles of common but differentiated responsibilities. All these principles are key that would give us some directions and some criteria, if we want to put it this way, to approach the evaluation of the government plans towards the national agendas. There hasn't been much done in this regard, except very few, and we're highlighting these examples. Nigeria is still in the process. Finland has been using some of those principles. Costa Rica in its evaluation also has highlighted some of them. We're trying to advocate for that, and we're trying to build the means and tools and knowledge products to help practitioners and commissioners to move ahead by integrating those principles. So that's some of the thought that we would like to see and would like to see them in practice.
Thanks very much, Kasem. Indeed, Carlos Javier, you may wish to check the resources that we will share. If somebody can put the link to the resources in the EVAL Partners website and also in the EVAL SDGs website, you may wish to see there are, for example, presentations of Nigeria where they have also set the criteria to choose the SDGs that they will evaluate. In that way, they selected SDGs. That's a different aspect of setting up criteria. Bala, are you there?
Yes, Adam, yeah.
So can you unmute, please? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, Ada, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you nice and clear now.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Go ahead, Bala. You were about to say something?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Ada?
Yes, we have two more questions, but if that is on this topic, Deborah, go ahead.
Yes, it's on criteria. For those of you who are really interested in this question of criteria to evaluate against national SDGs, regional SDGs, global SDGs, there is a new article in the American Journal of Evaluation by Michael Quinn Patton that reviews the new OECD DAC criteria that essentially is the old OECD DAC criteria with the addition of the criteria of coherence. And he challenges that as not transformative enough for what we need right now. We don't need business as usual criteria, given that the crisis we're in, global crisis of climate change we're in, that we need transformative, bold criteria. And he articulates 6 criteria to consider if you really are concerned about the integrated nature of all SDG indicators, the climate and all of the issues with it, that I would recommend looking at that. So it's Michael Quinn Patton's article on criteria and for the new world. In the future, we need, and the American Journal of Evaluation, the last issue. And I can put that in the chat box and make it available.
Thanks very much, Deborah. We have 2 questions from Robert Lahi. The first one is, to what extent has the pandemic of the past year impacted the use of evaluation in supporting the SDGs? So who would like to respond to that question, the first question of Robert Lahi? Bala, perhaps you want to respond to the question. I repeat it. To what extent has the pandemic of the past year impacted the use of evaluation in supporting the SDGs? In the case of Nigeria, I think it also has impacted the approach to the evaluations, right? Bala, can you please take
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. In the case of Nigeria, the time with which we wanted to conduct the independent evaluation of the 2 SDGs, SDG 3 and 4, had to be, in fact, we stopped entirely the data collection in the 6 states that we wanted to do until when the lockdown was lifted. And therefore, that also affected the use of the key findings in the 2020 VNR. And we had to use synthesis of other evaluations into the VNR. Obviously, from our time frame for advocacy for the key findings across the ministries, department, and agencies, has also meant that we could not go ahead last year. And so the whole of last year, 1, we didn't conclude the exercise, And two, obviously, because the findings weren't available, we couldn't start our advocacy as envisaged. At the moment, we are only working towards successful completion and then publication of the reports and key findings at the beginning of the third quarter of this year. So thank you.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you so much. We are running out of time, but still we have another question related to evaluation capacity development. The question is, are special efforts needed for evaluation capacity development in going forward? So the floor is open to the speakers to please respond to the question.
I'll give it a shot if you allow me.
Pardon? Repeat the question.
I'll try to address.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the from my perspective, I think the capacities that need to be developed are stretched out across different actors, and one of the key actor that would need to probably reconsider the way they look at or they manage or they address evaluation are the commissioners. It has been raised in so many workshops and meetings that the terms of reference and the way they were set, basically they might not reflect what needs to be done, and this is why most often in the exception phase the practitioners try to influence the approach and try to influence this whole the terms by setting some the frameworks and by reframing the evaluation. So I think commissioners need to get done the right way from the first time, probably. And they need to get more into a consultation around framing the terms of reference, and need to allow for the practitioners and the evaluators to pitch in as early as possible in the process in order to help frame the evaluation of the SDGs while accounting for the criteria. A second capacity that needs to be built is precisely around moving over and above what the OECD data criteria is all about, and integrating those principles into the evaluation, both if not at the stage of drafting terms of reference, but definitely while setting the methodology and the approach of the evaluation.
Thank you very much, Kasem. We have 1 minute, and I would like to take, in my capacity of moderator and abusing my role of moderator, I am daring to put Andrea Cook on the spot. We have Andrea Cook, who is the co-chair of Eval Partners and the director of evaluation of WFP with us. And Andrea, do you have a final message on what efforts are needed for evaluation capacity development looking ahead? Thank you, Andrea, over to you. Andrea, okay, great, you're muted.
So, sorry, Ada, oops. Thank you, good afternoon, good evening, good day, everyone. I'm sorry, I was just struggling with the controls on the Zoom. Could you repeat the question again, please, Ada, just so I can get my thinking really focused?
Sure. Are special efforts needed for evaluation capacity development in going forward?
I think by raising that question, the answer is there. Clearly, we further need to develop capacities in evaluation. I think, and this is something we've been reflecting on quite a bit in the World Food Programme recently, is there's been quite a lot of attention that goes into I suppose we could look at it, the supply side of evaluations, to the actual conduct of evaluation, to working to develop stronger and clearer professional standards for evaluators. And I think that work needs to continue. It's very important, and there's a real need to spread that out globally, and particularly look at and learn from how governments in the global south have been developing their own evaluation systems and building their own capacities. I think it's important to learn from there. It's actually what's going to work there. However, I think we also need to work to be building capacities on the demand side of evaluation, particularly, you know, what we've been talking about so much this afternoon, this session, is how to get people to understand when they need to commission an evaluation, why they need an evaluation, what evaluation adds, and how to use evaluation evidence to feed into public policy making and programming. So I think, you know, the kind of national evaluation capacity agenda also needs to be engaging with that and stepping up on that side of things. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I think we need a much more balanced approach to both sides of this, the commissioners and the users of evaluation, and bring that into the national evaluation capacity development mix.
Thanks very much, Andrea. That was excellent, an excellent and brief summary. And I read in between the lines that we also need probably to review the evaluation competencies framework, the competencies of evaluators in this current context. And I know that WFP is involved, and other organizations, UNEC and others, are involved in efforts towards professionalization of evaluation, and within that, reviewing the competencies for evaluators. Dear colleagues, we have reached the time. I think we are 4 minutes beyond the time. Thank you very, very much for your participation on behalf of the partners, the government of Nigeria, UNICEF, the World Food Programme, Eval Partners, who is spearheading this initiative, IDEAS, IOCE, UNEC, the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation, Eval SDGs, Eval Gender Plus, Eval Youth, and Eval Indigenous. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much for your engagement. We hope to continue in touch with you, and if you would like to join our efforts, please feel free to write to us. Thank you very much as well for all the people that has been involved in the organization of this event within the framework of the gLOCAL Evaluation Week. Before we close, I would just like to ask the speakers to remain online, and to the rest of the participants, well, enjoy your weekend. Wish you a very nice and relaxing Friday and weekend. Thank you so much. Bye.